When I came back after 6 years, my brother said, "We're finally free of you." So I ruined their lives one truth at a time. When I was 13, I thought maybe things were finally getting better. I'd won this small citywide art contest. Nothing major, just enough that they said my name on the school PA and gave me a gift card for supplies. I came home soaked from the rain, and my mom was in a strangely bright mood, like the kind she used to fake around guests. She even asked if I wanted pizza or needed new sneakers. My dad didn't say much, but for once he wasn't angry or sarcastic. And my brother? Logan was glued to his phone like always, not even pretending to care, but at least he wasn't mocking me. I tried to stay out of the way. I thought maybe I'd done something right for once. Maybe, for once, I wasn't the screw-up. 2 days later, they told me we were going out to celebrate. Dad told me to grab my bag, said we were late for dinner and didn't want to miss the reservation. When I asked what place, Mom just said, "You'll see. It's a surprise," but her voice had that tight, rehearsed tone she used when she was lying to her friends on the phone. I hesitated. Something felt off. But when you've lived with people who treat kindness like it costs blood, you learn not to question it when it appears, no matter how fake it seems. So I went. It was drizzling again that evening. The kind of rain that seeps into your socks and smells like wet dirt and metal. We all piled into Dad's old truck. Mom in the front, Logan and I in the back. No music, just windshield wipers and the occasional buzz from Logan's phone. I tried to lighten the mood, cracking some dumb joke about maybe getting a cake that said, "Nice job not being a total waste." Mom sighed loud and said, "Jaden, not now," and turned to look out the window. That should have been my warning. The drive felt long, and I started realizing we weren't headed anywhere near the downtown area where restaurants usually were. Instead, Dad turned onto a cracked service road behind a half-built shopping plaza. No lights, no people, just construction waste and huge puddles reflecting gray sky. He parked without a word. Then he got out, popped the trunk, and came around to my door. I was confused, but I followed. I thought maybe we were picking something up first. Maybe I was overthinking it. Then he pulled my backpack out of the trunk, the one I used for school, still had my sketchbook and lunchbox in it, and he tossed it onto the curb like it meant nothing. He didn't yell, didn't flinch, just flatly said, "Get out." I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. I thought maybe they were playing some twisted joke. "Are you serious?" I said. "Is this a lesson or something?" Logan looked up from his phone, finally, just long enough to give me a look I'll never forget. Cold, detached, almost excited. He hit the lock button. The doors clicked shut. I reached for the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Mom was still staring ahead like she was watching a different life out the window. Dad got back in the truck. The engine turned over. I knocked on the window hard. "What the hell is going on?" Logan just smirked. His window cracked an inch, and he muttered, "Don't embarrass us again." Then they drove away. He stuck his head out the window and yelled something I couldn't even hear over the engine, but I could see him laughing. And that was it. Just me, my soaked hoodie, a torn backpack, and a puddle of cold street water. I stood there for almost 10 minutes thinking, they'll come back. This was some deranged parenting tactic, a sick wake-up call or something. But they didn't come back. I started calling. First Mom, straight to voicemail. Then Dad, rang twice, then dead. Logan, call declined instantly. I left messages. Some angry, some begging. I was embarrassed to even hear my own voice saying those things. My battery dropped to 6%. I tried texting my classmate Devin, but no answer. Eventually, I started walking because I couldn't just sit there waiting like a lost dog. I headed toward the highway, where I remembered seeing a gas station. Every step I took, my shoes squelched like a joke. My backpack grew heavier with water, and I kept checking my phone like maybe someone had come to their senses. Nobody had. It took nearly an hour to reach the gas station. The guy behind the counter barely looked at me when I asked if I could charge my phone. He just nodded toward the soda fridge. I sat there, soaking wet, feeling like I was on mute while the world moved on without me. An hour later, my phone buzzed. One message. From Dad. Just a single line that burned like acid. "You want a family? Try not being the rot we scrub out every year." That was it. No questions. No check-in. Just that. I didn't respond. I just sat there with my head against the glass of the fridge door, watching condensation blur everything. I remember staring at my sketchbook, the edges warped from the rain, and thinking, this is how monsters are made. Not born. Made. I whispered to myself, one day, you'll pay for this. Not out of some dramatic sense of revenge, but because if I didn't hold on to that idea, then everything they did would mean nothing. My phone finally had enough charge. I messaged Evan again. This time, he answered. Said I could crash at his place just for the night. I walked another 30 minutes through the drizzle and mud until I reached his house. His mom barely looked at me, just handed me a towel and pointed to the couch. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling with my wet socks still on and repeated that one thought over and over again. You'll pay. You'll pay. You'll pay. Because if I didn't make sure they felt it, then they'd win. They'd get to walk around clean while I carried everything they dumped on me. And I wasn't about to let that happen. Staying with Devin didn't last long, not because he kicked me out or anything cruel like that, but because you can only live off someone's spare blanket and couch sympathy for so long before it turns into awkward silence. His mom didn't really say much, just gave these side glances when I lingered too long in the kitchen or came back late from walking aimlessly around the block. The vibe was clear. I wasn't family, and I couldn't stay. After 5 days, Devin stopped asking if I wanted to hang out, and his mom asked if I had any other relatives I could reconnect with, like this wasn't a deliberate exile. I packed up quietly the next morning and texted a guy named Roman who I knew from art class. He was one of those quiet, basement-dwelling kids who rarely talked unless it was about spray paint techniques or music nobody listened to. He said I could crash on an air mattress in his basement for a bit, and I didn't even hesitate. Roman's family barely noticed me. His parents were always at work or arguing in the kitchen with doors open, and his younger sister kept trying to sneak into the basement to play with the old PS3 down there. I kept my duffel under the stairs and slept with my hoodie on, just in case I had to leave fast. But honestly, the silence was nice. No one asking questions. No one pretending to care just enough to get credit for it. Meanwhile, my family kept building their lie like it was their second home. My mom told her friends I'd snapped and run away after a fight about responsibilities. She said they'd done everything they could, that I'd refused therapy and threw tantrums. I saw the screenshots. Logan posted vague stories about betrayal, pretending to be heartbroken. He told our classmates that I'd been spiraling and threatening people. Teachers gave me weird glances, like I might blow up in class. Nobody asked me directly, and honestly, I didn't try to correct them. What was the point? I knew what this was now. I wasn't a son to them. I was a scapegoat they could discard and then mourn publicly for attention. Every lie they told made me angrier, but it also made things clearer. I started saving everything. Every voicemail, every deleted post, every message they sent mutual friends trying to control the narrative. I didn't know what I was going to do with it all yet, but I knew I couldn't forget it. I refused to let them rewrite my life without leaving proof of the truth. One night, about 2 months after they ditched me, Roman and I went and grabbed chips and energy drinks from this corner store near the freeway. I hadn't showered that day and looked like hell, wearing the same hoodie I'd been rotating for weeks. That's when I saw her, my mom. She was with one of her yoga friends, fake laughing like she always did when she wanted to seem above it all. She spotted me, locked eyes for a split second, and then turned to the woman beside her and whispered something. The woman looked at me like I'd crawled out of the dumpster. My mom didn't flinch. She just left. Didn't say a word. Didn't ask how I was. Didn't blink. I stood there frozen, bag of chips in hand, and watched her walk away like I never existed. After that, something shifted. I stopped hoping anyone would see me for who I was. I stopped waiting for an apology or an explanation. I accepted the truth. I wasn't a person to them. I was a problem they got rid of, and now they were mad that I hadn't disappeared quietly. That night, I opened a new doc and wrote down every single moment I remembered. Every insult, every silent dinner, every time Logan blamed me for his screw-ups and I got grounded for it. I kept updating the file. Every text, every photo, every lie they told got a timestamp and a folder. It wasn't a revenge plan yet. It was just survival, like building a fire in the cold, one dry memory at a time. Then came Naomi's birthday. She was my cousin on my mom's side, one of the only people who ever treated me like I had a soul. She messaged me saying she didn't care what anyone said. She wanted me there. She told me to come if I felt safe. No pressure. I showed up anyway. The moment I walked in, the room fell silent. My mom dropped her drink. Logan looked like he'd seen a ghost. My dad just grunted and turned away. Naomi smiled big and wrapped me in a hug like I hadn't been forgotten by literally everyone else in that room. People started whispering. Some relatives stared at their phones, pretending they hadn't noticed me. Others looked genuinely confused, like they were seeing a side of the story that didn't match the one they'd been fed. I didn't cause a scene. I ate some cake, kept my head down, until Logan decided to bump into me near the drink table and mutter, "What are you doing here?" I turned to him calmly, didn't yell, didn't raise a fist. I just said loudly, "Should I tell everyone what you said the night you left me by the road?" That shut him up. Naomi's mom, who'd always been tight with mine, looked at my mom like she'd swallowed a wasp. I left soon after, but not before I saw my mom pacing outside with her phone, furious, flustered, not in control for once. Naomi texted me later, "You're not the crazy one. They just hate being seen." I held on to that sentence for weeks. It echoed in my head like a challenge. If they really hated being exposed, maybe that was exactly what I needed to do. Not loudly, not in public, but slowly, in the shadows, like they'd done to me. So I started observing everything. Who they were close to, who they owed money to, what they posted, what they deleted. I learned when they faked kindness for photos and when they made passive-aggressive posts to guilt people into sympathizing with their story. It was like watching actors flub their lines and still expect applause. And I realized then, if I played my cards right, I could make the whole stage collapse. They left me out in the cold like trash. They made sure the world thought it was my fault. But what they didn't realize was that the kid they left on the side of the road, he paid attention. He remembered. And he didn't forget. The reckoning wasn't coming with fire. It was coming with receipts. By the time I turned 20, I'd stopped calling what they did abandonment. It felt too clean, too clinical, like something you'd hear in a courtroom where lawyers try to wrap trauma in sterile language. What they did was discard me, the way people dump leftovers they never planned to eat again. I was living in St. Louis by then, working overnight shifts at a packaging plant, going home to a shared studio with a futon and a single gas burner. My life wasn't pretty, but it was mine. No more walking on eggshells. No more trying to guess which version of myself would upset someone the least. I kept my last name off every application. I scrubbed every social account of anything that could trace back to them. I became a ghost on purpose. Nobody from back home knew where I lived, and I intended to keep it that way. I wasn't running. I was rebuilding. Quietly. Patiently. The idea of revenge wasn't some fire burning in my chest anymore. It was a seed I watered slowly, letting it grow while I focused on getting my legs under me. But that changed after the birthday. After Naomi hugged me like I wasn't a disgrace. After I saw the cracks starting to form in my family story. That was the first time I saw fear in my mom's eyes, the kind you don't feel when you think the past is buried. So I started collecting more. I didn't care about being dramatic. I just wanted the truth preserved before they could twist it into something unrecognizable. Every message Logan sent trashing me to mutual friends. Every lie Curtis told the coworkers about why I'd left. Every manipulative post my mom made on social media, spinning sympathy from people who didn't know better. I downloaded it all. I saved voice messages, screenshots, deleted status updates, even old comments from friends they no longer talked to. I archived their hypocrisy like I was documenting a collapsing cult. I made folders labeled by year, subfolders sorted by person. One for lies, one for threats, one for fake apologies. I didn't know how I'd use them yet, but just having it all gave me control I never had growing up. No more gaslighting. No more pretending things didn't happen just because they made other people uncomfortable. Then I started watching them again. Not in person, just online. Naomi would send me little updates now and then. She'd never say much, just drop screenshots from time to time. My mom had apparently become some kind of local community mom figure, running bake sales and charity brunches and acting like she hadn't left a kid to rot in the rain. Curtis had joined some city leadership group, shaking hands with local officials and pretending to care about public outreach. Logan had reinvented himself as some self-help gym guy, posting daily motivation quotes while still living in their guest room. I never commented. I never liked anything. I just watched. I knew their type. They cared more about perception than reality. They would rather be loved by strangers than be honest with themselves. That was their weakness, and I was going to press on it until it shattered. It started small. I created a burner email, nothing traceable, and sent an anonymous tip to the head of my dad's community group. Just a short message containing some of his old words, word-for-word screenshots of him trashing the people he now claimed to represent. Not even commentary, just receipts. Then came the envelope. I wrote it by hand, no return address, no signature, just block letters. Inside were printed screenshots of the worst things they'd ever said about me. Curtis calling me a stain on the family, Logan telling someone he'd be better off if I was dead, my mom's text where she wrote, "We did what we had to do. He was never going to be right." I mailed it straight to their front door. I wanted them to know I remembered everything. Naomi texted me a few days later. "Your mom slammed a door so hard the frame cracked," she said. "Logan's been yelling at everyone. Your dad's pretending nothing happened, but he's been pacing for hours." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. They were panicking, and it had only just begun. I started hitting pressure points, but carefully. I found out my mom borrowed money from a neighbor once and never paid it back, claimed it was for emergency car repairs. I printed out the screenshots of her messages bragging about spending the money on wine for her ladies' night and anonymously dropped them into that neighbor's mailbox. For Logan, I waited. He was cocky online but broke in real life. He kept trying to sell supplements and fake coaching programs to people from our old school. I sent one of his clients a screenshot of him trash-talking them behind their back. Logan's side hustle started drying up fast. No money, no backup plan, just embarrassment. Curtis was harder. He was careful, and most of his lies were subtle. But even he had slipped over the years. I found an old community group chat where he called single mothers financial leeches, and another where he joked that I was a failed investment. I sent those to 3 people I knew he admired. Not long after, he got quietly removed from a fundraiser board. No public drama, just silence. Logan texted me that week. Just a single line. "You're a psycho. This has to stop." I didn't answer. Not because I didn't care, because that wasn't true. I wanted him to feel what I felt when he locked the car door, when he smirked as they drove off, when he told me I was nothing and acted like that was a normal thing to say to a sibling. But the best part was, I hadn't lied once. I didn't fake screenshots. I didn't spread rumors. I didn't make threats. I just showed people what they really were and let the rest happen naturally. They left me in the rain like trash. Now they were watching everything they built unravel one thread at a time. And I wasn't even done yet. I didn't plan on going back to the old neighborhood, but something about it kept tugging at me. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the part of me that still needed to see it all up close. The place where I got erased like a mistake someone didn't want to admit they made. I waited until a Thursday afternoon when I knew most people were either working or pretending to be. The streets looked the same, fake perfect lawns and trimmed hedges hiding the rot inside every house. The house looked smaller than I remembered. Same beige siding, same porch light that never worked, same crack along the front steps that nobody ever bothered to fix. I had an envelope in my hand. Nothing dramatic. No threats. Just the truth. Pages of it. Printed messages, dates, quotes, photos, everything they'd said about me, everything they'd denied, all in clean, cold ink. I dropped it on the porch, rang the bell, and walked away without looking back. Naomi texted me 2 hours later. "Your mom's freaking out." She called my mom crying and asking if I knew anything. "Dad's in the garage drinking." Logan locked himself in the bathroom for like an hour. I didn't reply. I went home, made some toast, and watched a documentary about shipwrecks. The kind of quiet disaster that happens slowly until one day it's just gone. That was them. Within days, they were unraveling in public. Curtis stopped posting his motivational quotes and deleted 2 of his profiles. My mom posted a vague message about betrayal and spiritual attacks, then vanished from social media. Logan started dropping cryptic stories like, "Watch who you trust." Snakes were smiles. People weren't buying it. Nobody was defending them. Nobody cared anymore. Then the messages started. First just 1 or 2 a day. My dad asking if we could talk, asking if I wanted to meet for coffee. I didn't even have that number saved, but I recognized the rhythm of his language. Calm, logical, fake. Then it was my mom. Her texts were walls of emotion, desperate and blaming at the same time. I tried my best, I did. You were always difficult. We never wanted it to be like that. Logan tried once. Just one message. You've made your point. Grow up. I left them all unread. Or at least that's what they saw. I had an old burner email they didn't know about. It caught all the fallout. Voicemails, emails, even a scanned letter from my mom begging me to stop before everything was ruined. She said I was being cruel, that I was acting like someone she didn't recognize. That's when I laughed out loud, because I was finally someone she couldn't control, couldn't guilt into silence. They still hadn't apologized. That was the wildest part. Not once did any of them say sorry. Not once did they say they were wrong. They said, stop. They said, you're hurting us. They said, we didn't mean for it to go this far. But never once did they say, we're sorry for what we did to you. That told me everything I needed to know. Curtis sent me a message I'll never forget. You don't know what it's like to be a parent. We made choices that seemed right at the time. Like I was a broken appliance they returned to the store. Like love was something conditional, dependent on behavior. Usefulness, silence. I almost replied just to say, you made the wrong choice. But I didn't. They didn't deserve a response. Naomi kept me updated, but I never asked. She'd send short messages, always simple. Your mom's been blacklisted from the charity group. Curtis got dropped from the city committee. Logan's friends aren't returning his calls. It was like watching dominoes fall in slow motion, except I didn't have to touch anything. The weight of their own lies was doing the work for me. The best part was watching them try to act normal. My mom posted one last family photo, clearly old, probably dug out from years ago when pretending was still easy. But the comments were empty. No likes. Just silence. Even their fake friends had checked out. That's the thing with people like them. They build everything on how they're seen, not who they actually are. So when that image cracks, there's nothing underneath but panic. Curtis sent me 83 messages in one night. 83. All caps, no punctuation, just pleading and demanding in the same breath. We can fix this, followed by, this is your fault. Please talk to us, followed by, you're destroying everything. It read like someone trying to put out a fire with gasoline. He even asked what I wanted. Like there was some dollar amount that would make me forget being left on a sidewalk with nothing but a wet backpack and a dead phone. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. They were responding to themselves now, unraveling in the echo chamber of their own guilt. I watched it happen, calmly, like checking the weather. This wasn't revenge. This was balance. They got to feel for weeks what I felt for years. The final crack came when Naomi told me about the kitchen fight. Curtis yelling at Logan in front of guests. My mom slamming cabinets like a teenager. Logan throwing a chair and shouting about how this was never his fault. Neighbors heard it. Someone even called the cops, though nothing came of it. But the illusion shattered. There was no cleaning it up after that. I never had to shout. I never had to get violent. All I did was hold up a mirror and let them look. And that was enough to bring the whole house down. It could have ended there, honestly. Watching them fall apart from a distance was enough for a while. I didn't need a front row seat to the collapse. I didn't want apologies or fake explanations or crocodile tears sent through family intermediaries. I just wanted them to live in the silence they forced on me. But people like them never go quiet willingly. Not when they're losing. Not when someone they tried to bury starts standing taller than they ever expected. Naomi called me late on a Sunday, her voice shaky from half laughing and half stunned. She said, Haley gave your dad an ultimatum. She told him to either cut off all contact with you or she was done. That threw me for a second. Haley was still around apparently, some new name that my mom used when she wanted to act like she'd rebranded herself as a lifestyle coach or whatever trend she latched onto that month. The kind of person who pretends self-help is the same as self-awareness. Curtis had stuck around through all of it, still hoping they could patch together some image of a family. But it was clearly crumbling from the inside. Naomi told me the conversation was brutal. Haley called me a virus, said that I'd poisoned everything, that keeping contact with me was like inviting fire into your own house. She said the only way to fix the family was to erase me completely. Total no contact. Full blackout. No messages, no texts, not even acknowledgement of my existence. She wanted Curtis to choose. Her or me. That night passed in silence. Naomi said nobody said anything in the group chat. No desperate pleas, no announcements, just dead air for the first time in months. I didn't know what I expected. I wasn't even angry anymore. It was almost funny how full circle it had come. First, they threw me out. Then they tried to act like I was never there. And now, when reality cracked their little stage in half, they wanted to repeat the same trick again. He called me at 9:42 p.m. sharp. I almost didn't answer, but some part of me still needed to hear what he'd say. When I picked up, there was just breathing at first, like he didn't know how to begin. Then he said, I called it off. It was quiet, hollow, not victorious, not emotional, just final. I asked him what he meant. He said, the whole thing. It's over. I'm done trying to fix this. I didn't speak. I let him fill the air with what I already knew. He told me Haley snapped the second he hesitated, that she threw a plate at the wall, screamed that he had ruined her life, that everything she built was collapsing because he was too weak to sever ties with a person who didn't deserve love. He didn't shout back. He didn't cry. He just looked at her and realized that none of it had ever been real. Not the forgiveness, not the healing, not the family photo crap they plastered online. It was all a performance, and now the audience had left the building. He said, I don't think she ever loved me. I think she loved the story she could tell with me in it. I stayed silent because that was the first honest thing I'd heard from him in years. He said he walked out, took his bag, blocked her number, left her screaming in the driveway while the neighbors pretended not to watch from behind their blinds. He bought a bus ticket and said he might crash at Naomi's for a bit if she was okay with it. I told him I didn't care what he did, but deep down, I was glad he got out. A week later, he moved into a rental downtown. I didn't visit. I didn't call. We kept distance like wounded animals afraid to bleed near each other. I didn't need reconciliation. I needed space. And he gave it. He got a new job, got quiet online, didn't post drama, didn't try to explain, just faded back into anonymity. For the first time, he looked like he wanted to be better, not be seen as better. Mom, on the other hand, went nuclear. I logged into the burner account one morning and found her entire meltdown. A long Facebook post, dripping with fake vulnerability, full of half-truths and my side of the story disclaimers. She wrote things like, I tried to be a good mother, and some children can't be saved no matter how hard you love them. She painted me like a ghost that haunted her after doing everything she could. I didn't respond, didn't comment, didn't need to. Others did. People asked hard questions in the comments. People she used to guilt into sympathy started connecting the dots. Someone even posted a screenshot of her from a parent group bragging about how she'd cut out a toxic child and found peace. People saw it. People remembered. The web was unraveling, and she was caught in it. Every time she tried to spin the narrative, someone else had the receipt. Then she posted a GoFundMe. I kid you not. Titled it something like, Help me recover from emotional trauma caused by family abandonment. She asked for 20 grand. Claimed she needed healing retreats, legal support, and space to breathe. I laughed so hard I dropped my coffee. The comments were brutal. Didn't you brag about disowning him years ago? Why not ask the people you didn't abandon for help? Have you tried therapy instead of Facebook? She shut the fundraiser down 3 days later. 0 donations. 100% humiliation. I never wanted fame. Never wanted followers or clout. I didn't want people chanting my name or congratulating me like this was a movie. I just wanted them to feel what I felt, to see what I saw, to lose what they clung to so tightly that they forgot who they stepped on to keep it. Logan stayed quiet after everything. Last I heard, he worked night shifts stocking shelves, still trying to build a brand online but not getting much traction. His posts were vague now. Motivational quotes, filtered photos with captions like, real ones know, and sometimes you gotta rebuild alone. Nobody was liking them. Nobody was sharing them. The silence had finally caught up. Naomi and I talk sometimes. Not often. Not deep. Just little things. Memes, random photos, quick check-ins. We don't mention the others unless it's necessary. She's doing her own thing. New city, new job. She said she doesn't feel guilty for cutting them off anymore. I told her she never needed to in the first place. One night, months later, I got a final message from my dad. I kept the notification on just to see if he'd ever actually get it. 83 messages in one thread. The last one said, "We'll do anything. Please, just stop. And I stared at it for a while before deleting the entire thing. Not out of rage, not for power, because it was over. They got what they wanted. They were free of me. And now they get to live with what that really means.